I request all to kindly settle down soon. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ICFAI University, Tripura, I take this opportunity to cordially welcome His Excellency, the Honorable Governor of Tripura, Shri Tathagata to our campus. I also extend a warm welcome to all dignitaries present here today, our friends from press and media groups, reverend superiors, colleagues, dear students, and all others. A warm welcome to you all once again in this winter morning in ICFAI University, Tripura campus. It is said there is nothing worth than today. The journey of this university that began in the year 2004 with a vision of imparting quality education has now taken a palpable shape. And here we are in the midst of ICFAI University, Tripura campus, in reality, targeting high for academic excellence. Today, we are indeed privileged to have amongst us His Excellency, the Honorable Governor of Tripura, Shri Tathagata, who has not only given us time from the busy schedule by visiting our campus, but also will be gifting us with a wonderful lecture session on the key aspects of construction engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, what more can we ask for? The university is honored to have such a man of repute and wish to felicitate Sir with floral bouquet. I request our student Neepa to kindly assist our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Biplab Haldar, in the felicitation.
Continuing education law at KHU? No, education, MCA, BCA, MBA,
With no further delay, may I now request the Pro-Vice Chancellor of ICFAI University, Tripura, Professor Biplab Haldar, to kindly deliver his welcome address. So please.
Good morning. His Excellency Shri Tathagata, Honorable Governor and Visitor of our University. On behalf of students, faculty members, non-teaching staffs, and also on behalf of our parent ICFAI Society, Hyderabad, I am privileged and honored to welcome you, sir, to our university. We are delighted to have within us a scholar, a renowned engineering faculty, practicing engineer, and also a leader who is committed to national building. Faculty members, registered, Chief Administrative Officer, staffs, students, member from print media, electronic media, members from police department, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this opportunity to invite you all today on the occasion of first visit by His Excellency to our university. I convey my sincere regards to you, sir. I urge all faculty members, staffs, and students to stand on feet and give a round of applause to mark the august presence of a visitor. ICFAI University Tripura was established in the year 2004 by the enactment of Act by the Assembly, Tripura Assembly, for starting skill development, job-oriented academic programs and professional academic program at Tripura. We have started the construction from 2006, but 2004 onward we have started the journey by rented premises provided by the government of Tripura. We built infrastructure and started functioning from these premises from 2007. Here we have got infrastructure for conducting academic programs from where we have entered. We have got workshop, laboratories, computer labs. We have got hostel facility separately for boys and girls to accommodate around 700 students in the campus. We also have infrastructure for staying with faculties and staffs inside the premises. Now, ICFAI University Tripura is promoted by ICFAI Society from Hyderabad. This is a non-profit making society. This ICFAI Society started journey from 1984 with the starting of CFA program. CFA program was started with the collaboration with CFA USA. And this program was accepted by banking and finance industries then. It was a very high-end program. After doing this program, students used to work in the finance and banking sectors in the country as well as abroad. This ICFAI Society was established by Mr. N.J. Shri. It is very important also to remember him, who is the founder of this group. He was also very, very highly accomplished teacher, faculty member, who was the topper of CA and ICWA in 1972 and 73 respectively, and also was topper of university in his graduation days. ICFAI started academic program, campus-based program from 1994, which was called ICFAI Business School.
Biplav Haldar. No. Ranganath. Okay. What is your post? Register.
ICFAI started ICFAI Business School from 1994 at several capital cities of the country. At present, ICFAI is running 11 universities, including Tripura. Other universities start Mizoram, Nagaland, Shri, Raipur, Jaipur, Bhatti at Himachal Pradesh, Hyderabad and Uttarakhand. So total 11 universities are set up by ICFAI Group as on date. ICFAI Group also publishes books, journals and magazines on science and technology, finance, accounts, marketing, strategy, education, law, etc. ICFAI Group is one of the largest contributor of cases, management cases in the European case clearing house, UK. So at IUT, we are offering 16 programs as on date in engineering, management, law, education, and library science. The few of the courses I am mentioning below, sir. The Faculty of Science and Technology, we have BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering, Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Civil Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Computer Science Engineering. And we also have BTech Lateral Entry program. We run BCA, MCA integrated, and BCA separately also we offer, and MC also separately offer. In management areas, we have got BBA, MBA, MBA Rural Management with agribusiness as specialization. In Faculty of Law, we have got BBA, LLB 5-year program, LLB 3-year program. In Faculty of Education, we have got B.Ed Special Education, MA Education. B.Ed Special Education is catering to the requirement of special children. In Faculty of Library Science, we have got Bachelor in Library and Information Science. At ICFAI University, Tripura, we are continuously working towards creating new department, introducing new programs, upgrading our course curriculum to be at par with the requirement of the modern days. In last 1 year, sir, we have started MBA in Rural Management, Library and Information Science, BCMC Integrated, BTech Electrical and Electronics Engineering, etc. We are in the process of starting the following centers: Center for Energy Studies, especially on solar and non-conventional energy source. For starting these programs, sir, I visited Jadavpur University, I visited IIST at Shri. Then we are also planning to start incubation center in collaboration with MSME and also entrepreneurship development center. These 3 centers we would like to start this year, sir. Sir, we are a young university. Our faculty members are also young. We are trying to imbibe value-added academics, soft skill, life skill, job-oriented skills to our students, so they become a very good, successful citizen of our country. You are from our engineering field, sir. We are very much proud to have you as our this nation institution. We are inviting various for providing placement to our students. Students have started getting offers from various organizations. We will pray to you for your assistance in building this institution towards getting high quality faculty and industry academic. On behalf of entire ICFAI University group, we once again welcome you to your first visit to our university and agreeing to deliver talk on key aspects of construction engineering. This program is being webcasted across 11 ICFAI universities in the country. We seek your constant guidance in doing better for the benefit of people of Tripura and be an active part of state's all-round development, and also for the development of entire northeastern region. I once again convey my sincere gratitude for visiting this university, and I am sure our faculty members, students, and entire staff communities will gain good experience from your lecture. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. His Excellency, the Governor of Tripura, Shri Tathagata is an Indian politician, engineer, and an author. Born in Kolkata in the year 1945, he had a distinguished academic career, having been a rank holder in the school leaving examination and a Jagadish Bose National Science Talent Search Scholar. He studied civil engineering in Bengal Engineering College, Shirpur, which is currently known as the Indian Institute of Engineering, Science and Technology. Later, he joined Indian Railway Service of Engineers. He worked as a chief engineer, design of metro railways, Calcutta. He also holds a law degree from Calcutta University. Shri Roy took voluntary retirement from railways in 1990 and joined Jadavpur University as professor and founder head of the Department of Construction Engineering. He is a former chairman, Board of Governors of TTTI, Calcutta, from 2000 to 2005. He is a fellow of the Institution of Engineers and life member of the Indian Council of Arbitration. Shri Tathagata Roy was attracted towards Hindutva and became a Swayamsevak in 1986. After leaving government service, he joined the Bharatiya Janata Party in 1990. After an outstanding political career, he was elected as the governor of Tripura on 12th of May 2015. He has written extensively both in English and in his native Bengali and has authored 2 books, namely My People Uprooted, a saga of the Hindus of Eastern Bengal, and also The Life and Times of Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. I am highly honored to request the man of versatility, the Honorable Governor of Tripura, Shri Tathagata, to enlighten us with his speech on the key aspects of construction engineering. Sir, the dais is all yours.
Professor Biplab Haldar, Pro-Vice Chancellor of this university, Mr. Ranganath, Registrar, faculty members present here, other dignitaries, and boys and girls. I must thank all of you to have given me an opportunity to get back to my old profession, that is teaching of engineering, which I had left some 5 years back when I retired from Jadavpur University in 2010. As a matter of fact, I had come into the teaching profession not very long back, in 1990 when I left the Indian Railways, when I thought that what I had learned in the field of construction, I ought to disseminate. And that, for that reason, among other reasons, I decided to come into teaching. I had derived great pleasure out of teaching students in a newly created department. In fact, I had engineered the creation of the department as the founder head. It is in the Salt Lake campus of Jadavpur University, and I retired from there in 2010. Now, I taught construction engineering for 2 years, comprising 3 papers. Now, I have to compress that within the space of 1 hour. So you can imagine what it is like. Obviously, I can't tell you everything about it, but I will try to put it across to you in this limited time, number one. Number two is, I will bear in mind the educational background of the students, because the persons that I taught had a grounding in engineering, whereas over here I understand there are students from engineering, there are students from law, computer science, education, library science, right?
Yes, sir.
So I will try my best. Could I have a glass of water? Just keep it here. So here I go. Construction engineering is construction. I would specifically speak on construction management. Specifically, construction management is obviously the management of construction. Now, construction is a very high value industry. Although it is not formally acknowledged as an industry in India, it is a very high value industry. You would be surprised to look at, you would be surprised to know the amounts of money that change hands in the process of construction. Construction is normally done by contracts, and in contracts, say for instance, any construction contract below 100 crore rupees is considered a small contract, chicken feed. From 100 to say 500, 600 is a middling contract, and above 500 crores is a real big contract. That would indicate the volume of money, the amount of money that changes hands in construction. So you can imagine what kind of an industry it is, yet it does not have the formal acceptance as an industry. Now, construction management, obviously such a thing requires management. Construction management is a thing which has several aspects or several facets. First of all, it is a branch of engineering. Secondly, it is a branch of management. Thirdly, it has got very extensive computer application. And fourthly, what is not so apparent, that it contains a very large element of law. My subject was, Professor Biplab Haldar has very kindly, while introducing, the lady who was kindly introducing me had mentioned that I have done graduation in both engineering and law, and both are necessary in understanding the subject of construction management. Why? Because a very essential part of construction management is the management of contracts. Now, why do we enter into contracts for construction? It is because construction is a one-off job. You don't do construction all the time. A given organization doesn't do construction all the time. This is quite different from production. Say, let us say, take the case of, say, Bata Shoe Company. They are in the business of making shoes. And they go on making shoes. Today they make shoes, tomorrow they'll make shoes. They'll continue to make shoes. But construction is not like that. Bata Shoe Company may be doing some construction of a new factory shed that they are putting up, or an office building that they are putting up. But having put it up, the office building or the factory shed, they are done with it. They don't want to do any more construction, at least in that line. On the other hand, there are certain companies who go on doing construction, but from one site to another, from one employer to another. This system, the fact of the business of construction being a one-off job, has made it necessary to have two sets of people. One, the people who want the construction to be done. That is normally called the employer. And the second, the people who do the construction actually. They are called the contractors. Now, in addition to these, there is a third element which enters into the fray, that is called the consultant or the consulting engineer or the architect. In case of a building, it is usually the architect. In case of a non-building project, like for instance a bridge or a dam or a tunnel or a railway line, it is a consulting engineer. Now, why do you need a consulting engineer? Because the requiring body, the organization which is doing the construction, which wants the construction to be done, say for instance Bata Shoe Company in this case, they don't know the first thing about construction. They know everything about making shoes, but they don't know nothing about construction. So how do they know? How can they make sure that the construction that they want to get done is being done properly? So for that, they need a person on their behalf to watch over, see whether the construction is being properly done. That person, in case of a building, it is the architect. Otherwise, it is a consultant or consulting engineer. So you have a triangle: employer, contractor, consulting engineer. Consulting engineer is in the position of a facilitator. Consulting engineer or architect, I normally use the word consulting engineer, but you can take it that it will mean an architect when the project happens to be a building project. Now that person or organization has the role of a facilitator. They don't actually do the construction, but they watch over the construction on behalf of the employer. The contractor does the construction and money changes hands because the contractor does the construction and the employer wants the construction done. Therefore, the employer pays the contractor. And the kind of money I have already told you, it is in the nature of 100 crores is a small contract. So you can imagine. So in order to ensure that there is a smooth flow of money, proper flow of money, in accordance with the ethics of the profession, in accordance with what is wanted from the parties, there has to be something binding, legally binding, between the two parties. And that is called a contract. That is called a contract which binds the contractor and the employer. Actually, there is a subsidiary contract also between the contractor and the consultant, but that is a small value contract. That is something which binds the consultant to the employer, making sure that the consultant does the work according to the employer's requirements. Now, when you have these two parties bound by the contract, first thing you have to understand what the parties want. Secondly, you have to understand what a contract is. What the parties want is different. The employer wants, what does the employer want? A, he wants the job done on cost. He has a budget. Let us say the budget is, you want, this ICFAI University wants a building put up. The budget is 100 crores. They don't want the budget to, the thing to overshoot and become 150 crores. Secondly, they want the job done on time. If the time horizon is say 1 year, they don't want the work to spill over 3 years. Thirdly, they want the job to be done to specifications. The building should look proper, it should conform to the drawings, it should conform to the specifications. They don't want a crooked building. A contractor can't come and say that you wanted a building, I have built it. Whatever you like with it, but you must pay me. No, no way. So these are the three things that the employer wants. On the other hand, what does the contractor want? Contractor wants his profit because he is not in this thing for love. He is in this thing for money. And money, legitimate money. Money to be made in the usual course of business. So he wants a profit. Secondly, he wants, Secondly, he wants cash flow. What is cash flow? He wants money to be in his pocket. You can't tell a contractor that this building, I mean, you means on behalf of ICFAI University, you can't tell a contractor that, look, this building is going to cost 100 crores of rupees, so you build it. Once you build it, I'll give you 100 crores of rupees. So the contractor in that case would have to shell out 100 crores of rupees from his pocket for something which will not belong to him. And at the end of the day, he will get paid those 100 crores of rupees. No contractor can work like that. So there is a system by which money is given to him from time to time. This is called maintaining cash flow. Money coming in and money going out. There must be a positive balance. That positive balance is called the working capital, with which the contractor goes on investing money into further work. Of course, he puts in some money of his. It's not as if he can do work without any money of his own. But he has to be paid from time to time. Now, because these two things are, the architect or the consultant also has certain objectives. Their objective is mainly they are also in this business for profit. Secondly, objective of the architect or consulting engineer is to keep their reputation. The reputation is very important. For the contractor, reputation is important, but not all that important. But the consultant reputation is important. That's about the subsidiary contract. We will concentrate on the main contract between the employer and the contractor. Between the employer, because there are conflicting objectives, these two have to be reconciled and their respective interests have to be protected. And in order to protect this, there must be a legally binding instrument. This legally binding instrument, as I told you, is a contract. Now, there are people from law faculty over here who would readily understand what a contract is. But for the others, I will have to explain what is a contract. A contract is defined as an agreement at law. An agreement at law. That means it has to be first an agreement. The parties have to agree. Who are the parties? The parties are called promissor and promisee. I think I better not go into that because that will make things too long. But parties have to agree, and they have to agree about the same thing in the same sense. In other words, they have to give consent. They can't agree halfway, they have to agree fully. I go to buy potatoes in the market. The potato seller says that this is 10 rupees a kilo. I can't say that, all right, I'll take potatoes from you, but not for 10 rupees a kilo, 8 rupees a kilo. He has to agree, otherwise there is no contract. And he is not bound to give me potatoes. When we agree, then he becomes bound to give potatoes subject to certain conditions. So there has to be consent. There has to be the two minds have to meet. It is called agritio mantium. Law is full of Latin words. Now I don't want to show off my knowledge by talking about all those Latin words, but not true. Agritio mantium, that is, there must be meeting of minds. Now meeting of minds is not enough. The parties must be competent to contract. What is meant by competent to contract? You can't make a contract with a 7-year-old child. He doesn't understand anything. The parties must be competent means they must be adults. They must be competent adults. They can't be, you can't make a contract with a madman. Similarly, you can't make a contract with an insolvent man, bankrupt man. Then the contract must have, the contract always has an object. Say, for instance, in construction contract, a contract is for a construction of a building, right? Now, it must be a legal objective. The objective cannot be illegal. You cannot have a contract in which you are building a building which will eventually serve as the local headquarters of the ISI. You all know what is the ISI? The Inter-Services Intelligence of the Government of Pakistan. So you can't have a contract for the construction of such a building because it is not legal. The object must be legal. And finally, there are certain other requirements. Say, for instance, a contract must not be in restraint of business. That is to say, you can't enter into a contract that you construct this building for me, but you cannot construct any other building for anyone else. No way. Secondly, it cannot be in restraint of marriage. You can't enter into a contract saying that you can construct this building, but you must be a bachelor. No way. Third is, a contract is not to be in restraint of legal proceedings. That is to say, you can't enter into a contract if if anything goes wrong with the contract, you can't go to a court. Of course, it will go to a court. That part of the contract will become void. So, a contract has to be valid to satisfy all these conditions. There are certain other conditions also which I'll presently come to. I have already told you that a contract contains an element called consent. Now, what is consent? Parties agreeing in the same thing in the same sense. Say, for instance, you say, I'll construct this building for 1 crore bucks. And this guy he agrees, And then ultimately the people have kept wondering what is a buck. There is a currency called a buck. They must understand that a buck means a dollar, or a quid means a pound, or whatever. They must agree in the same sense. But more important than that, this kind of thing doesn't happen. But more important than that, a contract, the consent for a contract must be free consent. What is meant by free consent? Free consent means that the consent should not be caused by one of four things. Should not be caused by one of four things. Number one is coercion. Coercion means what? I'm not going to take a definition. Coercion means you can't hold a gun to my head and say that you better sign this contract or else. Even if I sign the contract, it is an invalid contract. But it is not an invalid contract. I'm sorry, it becomes a voidable contract. In other words, supposing, I'm just telling you of a funny situation that law can throw up. Supposing it is a voidable contract which is voidable at the option of the promisee. What does it mean? That you are holding a gun to my head and you say that you have to construct this building for 100 crores of rupees or else. Now I am bound to sign, so I have signed. Then you find that the building who were holding that gun, you find that the building could have been constructed for 90 crores of rupees. But like a fool, you have gone and held a gun to my head and you have made me sign a document for 100 crores of rupees, which I would have very gladly signed, for that holding the gun to my head was not necessary. So in that case, you can't turn around and say, no, I held the gun to your head, so the contract is invalid. No way. I can say that you held the gun to my head, so the contract is invalid. But you can't say it. It is voidable at my option, not at yours. So that is coercion. Coercion is something that will invalidate a contract if the promisee, the person who is being subjected to coercion, he opts for such invalidation. Secondly, undue influence. Say, for instance, you are trying to get the building constructed at a pittance, something pretty much below the price. Now, I am not agreeable to do it. So what you do, you go to my mother. My mother is dead. But just for example, you go to my mother and say, please tell your son to do it. I can't afford any more money. And I am a dutiful son that I can't ignore what my mother says. So my mother says, why don't you do this building for 50 crores of rupees? And I sort of willy-nilly I agree. This is called undue influence. You can't use undue influence. If you do, once again, it is voidable. It can be invalidated at my option, not at yours. Thirdly, a contract can become voidable through misrepresentation. Misrepresentation means you tell me something on the basis of which I am entering into the contract, which is wrong, which has induced me to enter into the contract, but you don't know that it is wrong. Say, for instance, to construct a building, you say that there is rock below this earth. Now, if there is rock below a piece of plot, then the foundation becomes rather less costly. On the other hand, if a building is built on a swamp, then the construction of the foundation will become much more costly. Then I suppose we are entering into a lump sum contract that I construct the building for a given price. Now you tell me that there is rock. Now this thing you tell me on the basis of something, that some government report which says that there is rock, or some investigation done by someone, and you believe that there is rock actually. You believe in good faith that there is rock. Now this that you are saying something wrong which you don't know to be wrong. That is misrepresentation. In a case of misrepresentation, I can void the contract. Or I can say that I will do the contract, but at the end of the work, you must pay me extra. That option is left to me. And fourth is fraud. Fraud means knowingly you misrepresent or recklessly you misrepresent. You say there is rock. You know perfectly well there is no rock. This was built on a swamp. It is going to cost me more. So that contract can be invalidated by me, or I can construct the building and eventually I can come back to you and say that no, I have constructed it, you must pay me extra. Or I can say it recklessly. I don't do anything, I just tell you off the top of my head that this is founded on wrong. Under such circumstances, the contract can be voided. In any case, let us imagine that it is a contract for the construction of a university building, not for the Tripura headquarters of the ISI. It is a valid contract. The parties are not 7 years old. They are mature. They know what they are doing. There is a proper written instrument, etc. Then the contract has to be performed. It has to be performed. It has to be executed. Executed by whom? Executed, in the case of a construction contract, by the contractor. Now, when the contractor goes to execute, it has to be on a written instrument. Even a contract can be oral in theory, but oral contracts are very piddling contracts. Let's say, for instance, over telephone, I say that you send me 10 kilos of potato, that can be an oral contract. It's a very simple thing. But any substantial contract cannot be oral. It has to be written. And the written contract is not an easy thing, because it's fraught with a lot of problems. Because a construction contract is a complicated thing. It is not like a supply contract, that you give me this stuff and I will give you money. It is not like that. In a construction contract, what do? You have a plot of land. You are asking someone to come there and construct on that plot of land, for which you will pay him money. And whether you will pay him money or not is going to be decided by a third party, that is to say the consultant or the architect. This makes things difficult. So you have to have a written contract. This written contract can be in different forms. One of the forms is called a lump sum contract. Second form is called an item rate contract. Now that has got a subdivision called a percentage rate contract. We will not go into that. Third is what is called a turnkey contract, or a design build contract, or a turnkey contract. Fourth is what are called BOT contracts, build, operate, transfer contracts. These are many of these are very complicated things, so I'll not go into them. I'll just touch upon these things very, very superficially. Most common construction contracts are item rate contracts. What is an item rate contract? You have let me begin with lump sum contracts. Lump sum contracts are less common than item rate contracts, but still they are used. What is a lump sum contract? I say that you will construct a building for me on this plot of land. I set out what kind of building. I give you the drawing for the building. I give you the specifications for the building. I tell you within what time building will have to be constructed. And I give you the specifications and drawings right down to the last detail. And you say that I will construct this building for, say, 90 crores of rupees. There is a contract. This is the lump sum contract. This sounds very simple. Actually, it is not so simple. Because when you go to construct a building, say for instance, take a domestic building, or an office building, a domestic building. You decide to construct a domestic building, and you lay down the specifications, and the contractor agrees to do it for, say, domestic building will not cost that much, say 3 or 4 crores of rupees. Then your wife comes and says, oh, what kind of a drawing is this? She can't read a drawing. So when the building is halfway constructed and the bathroom is done, your wife comes and says, or in the case of the lady's husband comes and says, what kind of a building is this? The mirror is not properly placed, the bathtub is too small, the locking arrangements are not secure enough. I want these things changed. The moment you want anything changed, the price does not hold good anymore, because the contractor had entered into a contract for construction of a building to certain exacting things. Say, for instance, this tower bolts, chitkini. This tower bolts, it was written down, you have to write down in a lump sum contract, this tower bolts have to be of aluminium. Now, if you, in the halfway through the contract, if you say, no, they must be of brass, no go. You have to pay him extra. Then you have to decide what you should pay him. For that, there is no contract. So the two of you have to sit together and decide and settle on some price, which is not easy halfway through the contract. These give rise to problems. This is why lump sum contracts are done in certain cases. Not all cases, but most often we do what are called item rate contracts or measured contracts. What is an item rate contract? You don't enter into a contract for construction of a building. You enter into a contract, you break down the work of the building into individual items. What are these items? First item is earthwork in excavation. You have to do the foundation. In order to do the foundation, you have to cut earth, excavate earth. So there is an item for earthwork in excavation. How much earthwork? It has to be paid by the cubic meter. So there is a price agreed for cubic meter. And how much you will pay is decided on the basis of measurement. That you have done so much earth, it is measured, so many cubic meters, to be priced at such and such price, so many rupees per cubic meter, you are paid. Then inside you have to do concreting. Concreting is paid once again by cubic meter. But inside the concreting, there is reinforcement. You know, the steel that you put in, steel rods that you put in before you pour the concrete, those are called reinforcements. This reinforcement again is measured in terms of tons. So a certain price is agreed as to the tons, as to the reinforcement. Now, if the contractor is to buy the steel, then it is all right. But if you decide that you will buy the steel and give it to the contractor, then there will be problems. What kind of problem? You can't conceive this, but there will be problems. What kind of problems? That you buy, say, 10 millimeter rods. Okay. Now, 10 millimeter rods, when you give to the contractor, you actually weigh the rods and give it to him. You put them on a weigh bridge or a weighing scale. You tell them this is the 10 millimeter rod. I am giving you 5 tons of 10 millimeter rods, and you give it to him. Okay. Now, when he goes and lays it, and you measure the number of rods, when you measure the rods, you don't weigh it because it is all tied up. You can't weigh it. So what do? You measure it. You take linear measurements and you multiply the linear measurements by what is called the linear weight of the rods. There is a catalog section, it's called the section book. The section book says that these rods will weigh, say 10 millimeter rods will weigh, say 3 kilograms per running meter. Every meter will weigh 3 kilograms. So what you do is you measure the rods with a tape, and then you multiply that by the sectional weight, and then you arrive at the number of tons, and then you pay for that number of tons. Now there is a problem in that. A 10 millimeter rod is usually not a 10 millimeter rod. It works out to usually 10.1 millimeter, 10.2 millimeters, 9.9 millimeters, something like that. Why? Because in the rolling mills in the steel plant, the roles were away. That is not a thing that you will easily understand unless you have studied some metallurgy. But the rolls wear away, as a result of which the rod becomes thicker. A 10 millimeter rod will become 10.1 millimeter. So when it becomes 10.1 millimeter, this is called rolling margin. When it becomes 10.1 millimeter, then if you measure it and you multiply it by the nominal weight of a 10 millimeter rod, you will find a lesser weight. But you have put in more weight. So how do you reconcile these two? These will give rise to disputes. Still, in contracts, the chances of disputes are less. They are confined to a few items. That is why item rate contracts are preferred. But item rate contracts are troublesome because you have to measure. Lump sum contracts are very simple. So long as you don't make a change and everything is laid down right down to the last chitkini or tap or something like that, then there is no problem. You tell the contractor that when you have constructed up to the ground level, the foundation, I'll give you 10% of the lump sum amount. You construct another floor, I'll give you 5%. Construct another floor, I'll give you 5%, and so on, and ultimately the entire amount. Item rate contract is difficult to operate because you have to measure the quantity. And after measuring the quantity, you have to multiply it by the rate which has been agreed. Now, there could be other problems. Say, for instance, you have not done things according to the specification. As a result of that, you have got some bad concrete. But it is not so bad that you have to throw it away. You can, it's really bad concrete. Bad concrete is called honeycombed concrete. It is not solid. Supposing you build a concrete pillar, then concrete pillar, it is done inside a formwork. There is a wooden planks or steel shuttering which is done, and on that, inside that, concrete is poured like a mold. Now, after some time, you have to remove that thing. When the concrete is set and hardened, you have to remove the formwork. That is called striking the form. When you strike the form, you may find that the concrete is not solid. There are innumerable holes in that concrete. That is called honeycombing. That is bad concrete. In that case, you can force the contractor to dismantle that concrete and redo it again. But supposing it is not so bad, it is bad all right, in the sense that it is slightly crooked and all that, then what do? You are stuck because you don't want to dismantle it. If you want to dismantle it, then everything else being all right, you will run into a time overrun. It will cost you more time. That nobody can prevent. You can try to extract money from the contractor, you can withhold his own money, but you cannot get back time. You want time. Because otherwise, in case of ICFAI University, you cannot start a class by the scheduled time. So, you accept that bad concrete. Now, but if you accept bad concrete, why should you pay the contractor the entire amount? Now, there a dispute arises. Now, for this kind of disputes can arise in item rate contracts as well as lump sum contracts. I just tell you the other forms of contracts very briefly because I'm gradually coming to the end of my time. Third kind I mentioned to you are called turnkey contracts. In a turnkey contract, you do not lay down the parameters of the thing. You do not lay down give the drawings. You just tell him what are called performance criteria. Performance criteria means, say for instance, I want to construct a factory shed. Now, I am not bothered whether the factory shed is going to be made of steel or of concrete. I want a shed inside which my people can work without being hit by sun or rain or snow. So, in order to do that, I may use either concrete or steel, but I am not particularly bothered about what I am using, which I am using. So I tell the contractor that I want this much of covered area. with the column spacing, the pillar spacing not to exceed this. Sorry, not to be less than this. So some contractor will design with concrete, some contractor will design with steel, and he does the design, he does the construction, and he gives a lump sum price. That is called a turnkey contract. And fourth kind, which is called a BOT contract, transfer. There are further modifications of BOT which are called BOLT, bolt contracts, boot contracts. Never mind those. But a BOT contract is one in which the contractor puts his own money. He constructs the works. It's usually a road or a bridge. Say, for instance, in a road, in a BOT contract, the contractor constructs the building or constructs the roads with his own money. Then he realizes toll. He realizes toll from that road or that bridge. And out of that toll, he gets paid. I mean, he takes the whole toll, or he takes part of the toll, and out of that toll, he gets paid. This is called a BOT contract, and he has a right to collect toll for, let us say, 20 years or 30 years. That is laid down in the contract. This is nowadays becoming rather common in road and bridge public works contracts, but it can't be done in case of building contracts or construction of factory building or such like that. Now, as I said, I have given you several examples of disputes arising in contracts. Now, what do you do if a dispute arises in a contract? Now, normally you would say that we will try to settle it among ourselves. Supposing you can't settle it. It's not very easy to settle because these disputes are of a rather complicated nature. You can't settle. So what do? In such a case, you can go to court, but going to court has its own problems. Then the issues are highly technical. Let us say that this contractor has done a concrete which is not exactly to specifications, as a result of which the impact strength, the strength of the concrete, which is determined by what is called non-destructive testing. Never mind what non-destructive testing is. It's without breaking the concrete, I can test the strength of the concrete. Normally, concrete strength is determined by taking a piece of the concrete and crushing it. But obviously, I can't do it in the case of a building, so I do non-destructive concrete testing. Non-destructive testing is without breaking it down. Now, supposing he has done the concrete, which is less than, which has less strength than what is required, but at the same time, it is not totally unacceptable. So for that, if the price agreed was say 300 rupees per cubic meter, I say you will get only 250 rupees per cubic meter. He says, no, I am entitled at least to 270 rupees per cubic meter, because look at the rheology of the concrete, look at the shape of the concrete, look at the composition of the concrete, look at this, everything is all right except the impact strength is less. Now, can you explain these things to a judge? You can't even explain it to an advocate. He will not understand. And if he does not understand, then how can he explain it to a judge? Because the judge is not an engineer. So in such a case, you have to go for what is called arbitration. Now, that used to be my specialization. So if I start talking on arbitration, then I can talk for 10 hours. But let us not go into that. Let me just tell you what might happen, because I've seen it happen. What might, if you try to explain these problems to a layman, to an advocate, if you go to court, if you try to explain it. Do you know the story about the 5 blind men of Hindustan who went to see an elephant? Some of you might know. 5 blind men of Hindustan, there is a poem, who went to see an elephant. And one of them felt the elephant on the side and said, I see, the elephant is like a wall. Another one, he felt the elephant, the trunk of the elephant, and said the elephant is like a rope, or felt the tail of the elephant is like a rope. The third one felt the leg of the elephant, and he said elephant is like a pillar. And the two similarly did it. And they were all right and they were all wrong, because they were not looking at the totality of the elephant. In Bengali we say Andhar Hosti Darshan, looking at the five blind men trying to see gauge what an elephant looks like. This is the kind of thing that can happen if you take an engineering problem, engineering dispute, a technical dispute before a non-technical person like a judge or an advocate. He will only understand one little bit, and he will say, this is the dispute. Actually, that is only a marginal part of the dispute. That is not the dispute. So you have to go for arbitration. Arbitration is a process in which you go before a private judge who has some understanding of the problem, who is normally an engineer, and who has some legal background. This is why it is necessary to understand some law for persons who are dealing with contracts. And with all humility, I can say that I did it. That is why I had 2 degrees, one in engineering and one in law. Or one can be a lawyer and understand a little bit of engineering. But you have to have a little bit of understanding of both. Otherwise, you will be like those 5 blind men trying to see an elephant. And in order to do this, to go for arbitration, you must have what is called an arbitration agreement. Arbitration agreement means you have an agreement which says that if we have a dispute, we will not go to a judge. We will go to a third party whom you can name or whom you can name by designation. There are different ways of naming him. Then you can go to him and him or her and ask that person to adjudicate it as a judge would. And he would adjudicate it and he would produce what is known as an award, which is like a judgment, which is not quite a judgment, which is like a judgment. And it can't be assailed in court. It can't be, you can't challenge it. A court judgment, you can go on appeal. You can go on several appeals in our country. That is why court cases never get settled in our country. If you go to first, if you have a problem, if you have a dispute, you go to civil dispute, you go to the senior division civil judge. Then from the senior division civil judge, you go to the high court. Then from the high court, under certain circumstances, you go to a division bench of high court. Then you can go to the Supreme Court under special leave petition. There are several possibilities in that. So instead of that, if you go for arbitration, there is no appeal against an arbitration award. So therefore, it becomes final, but you must be very clear about the choice of an arbitrator. That the arbitrator understands the problem, that he will be able to adjudicate it, plus he is a person of known probity. He is not corrupt or corruptible. These things you must ensure. Now, within this very short time, I have tried to tell you what construction management, particularly contract management, means. This is once again only like the leg of an elephant. But if you are interested in the subject, then you can read it up. Particularly those who are in engineering or law may find the subject interesting, and there is scope for development of this in the courses in the lines of engineering, particularly civil engineering and law. And if I have been able to raise some interest in the subject among such students or even among others, because otherwise, even if you are not a student of engineering or law, you might be in a position where you might require to administer a contract. Say, for instance, you are, we have the registrar of university here. He will require to get a building constructed. Now, he will have to sign a contract. So, it is important even then to understand what a construction contract is like. And if I have been able to put across this thing to you in this short space, I will consider my efforts justified. Meanwhile, thank you very, very much for giving me a patient hearing. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are immensely honored to be a witness of your lecture session, which was highly educative and valuable as well. Thank you so much, sir, once again. With that, we come to the end of the program. I request Dr. Ranganathan, the Registrar, ICFAI University, Tripura, to please convey a vote of thanks.
Honorable Governor of Tripura, His Excellency, Shri Tathagata, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Biplava, sir. My colleagues, students, and media friends, good afternoon. I am privileged to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of ICFAI Group in this August gathering. So we are grateful to our Honorable Governor and also the visitor of the University, His Excellency, Shri Tathagata, sir, for accepting our invitation and addressing the students. Sir, as you advocated to our students to understand these concepts and the way things have to be managed, I hope all our students will keep interest in your guidance and do for this. We are thankful to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Biplava, sir, for initiating this program and confidence to organizers to give proper solutions to give this good program in our university. It is not possible to organize this program without organizers in our campus. Organizers taken proper care to organize this program. Thank you.
The updating of knowledge can be done through various avenues. One such is perhaps an interaction with an expert such as Shri Tathagata, the Governor of Tripura, who is not only an excellent speaker, but a man of high values and morale. It is heartening to have you amongst us, sir. We would like to express our immense gratitude for sparing this morning for us from your busy schedule and the wonderful lecture session that you have gifted us. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank the dignitaries, all media personals, faculty members, staff and students present here for their cooperation and making this morning joyous. Thank you all.
Cup of tea, sir.